Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. I hope everyone is well. Everybody's enjoyed their week. Everybody's ticking along nicely, getting their work done, getting their uni stuff done, school stuff done, however or wherever you are listening to this. Whether this is while you're falling asleep, whether this is while you're doing some uni work, whether you just listen and focus on listening. I do that with some podcasts as well, so there you go. But I hope everyone is well regardless. On myself, very swell. It was my birthday yesterday at the time of recording, 28th of April. So enjoyed a nice quiet Sunday birthday, chilled dinner, just with the fam, enjoying company, enjoying life, which is the main thing. But on that note, I might start this podcast with a very soppy. Might start this podcast very, very soppy. It was my 20th birthday yesterday. So I'm now officially old in my books. Every person I've said to that is "You're not old, you're still young." I go, I don't feel young anymore. I think because of, especially when I look at it through the prism of this podcast, I started this 3 years ago. I started this when I was 17. Still very much one of the first real kind of goes I've had at this whole media game. Straight out of high school, just thought, fuck it, why not? And I did it, and I just enjoyed it. I was enjoying it, so I kept going. And now 3 years later, 2.5 years later, technically, I'm here talking about it. It's been 3 seasons, so the way that I can kind of remember that was the 21, 22, 23, and currently 23, 24. So we are going through season 3, and I feel like I've grown a lot throughout this. Obviously the presentation of it all has grown. The background's got better. The microphone has actually stayed the same. The microphone. Camera's gotten better. Equipment has gotten better. I can now change scenes, and I don't no longer need to edit these because I just have a Stream Deck and I use OBS, which is awesome. So yeah, it's been a very good kind of 3 years since I've been doing this. I've enjoyed it. I love speaking about football, and it's really bizarre that I find a lot of people like listening to me speak about football. I don't really focus too much on numbers. I just kind of do this because I like to do it. I like to speak about football, and if people like to listen to it, then I guess that's a positive. But that's just kind of a thing that just a kind of a way of kind of, I don't know. It's a good kind of collateral impact that people like to listen to me talk when I like to talk. So no, I appreciate everyone as always for sticking around. If this is your first episode, then you get the context, the backstory. If this is your 100th and you follow the journey, then there you go. If this is your 10th and you're still kind of dipping your toes as to whether or not you like this, hopefully this kind of persuades you into the right way. But no, it's been a great journey. I'm not ending just yet, just relax. But it's been a great journey. Can't wait to do it some more for however long this lasts, whether it's this season, next season, season after that, whenever this ends, whenever I decide to call it quits. I feel like it's good to reflect every now and again and think, this is actually pretty cool. So yes, 4 minutes. I was just rambling. Thank you very much for everything. I'm not quitting yet. As we move forward, I guess. Happy birthday to me. There you go. What else is there before we kick things off? Of course, fit check, of course, because it's become a staple. This is a Netherlands kit, very very retro Netherlands kit with the good old fashioned. You definitely won't be able to see it, but the number 14 on the back. The number 14 on the back for the one and only Johan Cruyff. Now it was this top kind of it doesn't really mean it means a lot to me. I wouldn't say it means a lot, but I like it for a different reason than like kind of a sentimental reason. This was bought once again for me from overseas, from Netherlands. I have a fascination with old football, as you could probably tell by those who are featured in my background, the tops that I wear, the way I speak about football, the way I speak about players. I do like old football. I don't like the commercialization of it these days. I was born in the wrong era. And Johan Cruyff, the master of everything in his day, really kind of he's one of those that I look up to. Go, fuck, I would have been loved to watch him in his prime, even prime as a player and prime as a manager as well, and just prime as a footballing person. Did it his own way and did it brilliantly, and is one of the best ever to play the game ever. Which you have to be pretty good. Should have won a World Cup. Shame he didn't. But anyways, if as well. So yes, before we move things on, if my voice still sounds a little bit, if my voice sounds a bit nasally and a little bit croaky, I have just recovered from influenza. So this is 6 minutes of absolute rambling that has nothing to do with football. I apologise, but hence that as well. Let's move on and let's actually start this podcast. Let's look. There's one glaring talking point, and that is There's one glaring talking point, and we'll speak about that mainly for the majority of this podcast because I feel like it's a good time. It's a good place to speak about it, considering, based on the results that have happened over the weekend, it's all but confirmed that the 3-horse title race has been cut down to 2, as Liverpool have stumbled for a couple of games in a row now and have almost certainly kind of removed themselves from the title race. They are 5 points away. They're 5 points behind Arsenal, who currently sit top on 80 points, but they are 4 points behind Manchester City, who have a game in hand. So if Manchester City win that game in hand, they are 7 points clear of Liverpool, who are in third. And that basically means, barring a catastrophe across a couple of boards, Liverpool will no longer win the league. It was the 1-0 loss at home to Crystal Palace didn't do them any favours. The 2-0 loss away at home at Everton put the nail in, and the 2-2 draw away at West Ham put the soil over the lid, if we're going to use a very, very morbid term. So Liverpool out of the title race, great, whatever, blah, blah. That's kind of, I'll probably end up speaking about that kind of just through when I speak about the title race and the updates around it. I want to speak about Jurgen Klopp. Because this is it. He's no longer in the Europa League. Premier League looks out of reach. Won the Carabao Cup. And he's no longer in the FA Cup. So from what looked to be a quadruple, a very, very, somehow very plausible quadruple, has turned out to a singular Carabao Cup victory against a very, very poor Chelsea side in the 119th minute. Okay, so that is it. Jurgen Klopp, the era and the chapter of this book closed. Bang, new chapter. Let's review. Maybe let's not review the whole chapter. Let's review the kind of final few pages. He's a polarizing character. Undoubtedly a great manager. A manager that has turned the fortunes around at that football club beyond kind of all recognition. There we go. If you look at that football club, kind of 30. If you look at that football club, kind of 20. How far back am I going? 10 years ago, 2014. Kind of was that year under Rodgers where they were doing something, but apart from that, it's been just average. As my OBS breaks a little bit, but we should be back. It was that period where they were down in the dumps, in the doldrums, and they were not good. And then all of a sudden, this young, exuberant, funny, charismatic German manager from Borussia Dortmund comes through, and something starts to happen. And then the quirks start to come through. The celebrating a 2-2 draw against West Brom, the 5-4 win away at Norwich, Adam Lallana scoring in the 150th minute or whatever it was. These things happen, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, momentum happening, and then they make top 4, and then the next year they go on this run in the Champions League, and this run just keeps going, and it doesn't stop, and they make the final, and a couple of moments of madness cost them that final, but they go again the next year. They lose the league by a point, but they make the Champions League final again, and they win it. And then the next year, they win the league. And it was just kind of like this cycle, this momentum of something that just was not going to stop. And obviously a couple of trophies later, Champions League final later, a couple of Carabao Cups, an FA Cup later. He has a pretty good resume under his belt. A resume that probably could have been and maybe should have been improved upon. I think if you look at some of those finals that they played, probably should have won in Paris. Probably almost definitely should have won in Paris. Any other day, Thibaut Courtois doesn't perform like a prime Manuel Neuer, Levi Yashin, and every good goal, Petr Cech and Oliver Kahn, and just the best goalkeeper to ever play the game. On any given day that Liverpool do add that trophy to their basket, probably could have had a couple more Premier Leagues as well. If Man City are 5% worse than what they are, they probably have 2 more Premier Leagues, but that's how the cookie crumbles. And now it's ending in a unceremonious falling off the cliff sort of ending, and the phrase that springs to my mind straight away is die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. I'm not going to sit here and say that Jurgen Klopp has become a villain all of a sudden, because I can guarantee you right now that Jurgen Klopp, once the dust settles on this season and in a couple of months' time when Liverpool fans look back at Jurgen Klopp, they will think about the good times only. Because look, 2 bad weeks in his last couple of months as Liverpool manager doesn't hold a candle to some of the success and some of the good memories that he's brought to them. However, there is this undeniable factor about Jurgen Klopp that his managerial tenure at Liverpool had the ability to end on such a high, whether or not it was a quadruple or not, or whether or not it was just another trophy, or at least giving every trophy a fair shake. That is something that will leave Liverpool fans with a sour taste in their mouth, because they should have beat United in that FA Cup tie. They're probably a pound for pound a better side than Atalanta, and they're a better side than Everton, and a better side than West Ham, and a better side than Crystal Palace, and they dropped points in all 3 of those games. Two losses and a draw in the final 2 months of the season when you're battling in the title race that's fought by mere points. It's not good enough. Doesn't win you trophies. Doesn't win you titles. And we've seen now what turned into what could have been a very, very celebratious kind of ending to his tenure has become a nightmare. It's a shame. It is a shame because look, I think a lot of rival Liverpool fans, a lot of fans of rival clubs will revel in this. I had it coined to me today. ABL, anyone but Liverpool. Was kind of the mantra thrown around by a couple of Manchester United supporters that I work with, and I thought that was quite funny because I wonder how much of that hatred for Liverpool has been fueled by Jurgen Klopp's polarizing nature. Obviously, Liverpool and United hate each other, no shit. But Jurgen Klopp, if you don't like Liverpool, you don't like Jurgen Klopp. And if you hate Liverpool, you probably hate Jurgen Klopp a lot more than what you would if he was a manager of a different club that you don't hate, because he backs his team in. He is sometimes, most of the time, unreasonable. He wants to live in a world in which his team is favoured, and he says it almost publicly, right? And it's quite how do I say it? It's quite transparent in his ability to just be so blindingly kind of biased to his own team, but you have to respect it, in my opinion. You have to respect it, because you, as a manager, that's exactly what you want. You want, as a player of a manager, you want him to back you in, and as a fan, you want him to back your boys in as well. So I think a lot of rival fans are going to revel in this ending that he's had, this unceremonious. I don't want to sit here and call it a capitulation, because I think that is very unfair. I think that is very harsh. What I am going to sit here and say is that it probably could have gotten. How do I say it? It probably could have gone a little bit better. Put it that way. And hey, look, that's football, right? That's football. Shit happens. It's cruel. It's so cruel. It is so cruel. Just ask Coventry fans how cruel football is, and how it does not care. And for every success story, there is millions of hard luck tales that put a dagger in the heart of a lot of fans. And while Liverpool are a club that pride themselves now look, yeah, my brother's a Liverpool supporter, right? So maybe, and quite funnily enough, when I tell that to people, a lot of people say, "Oh, you must hate Liverpool." Then no, it's actually the opposite. I actually have a somewhat, I I wouldn't say soft spot, but I don't hate Liverpool. I really don't. And as a Chelsea supporter, that probably rubs people up the wrong way. As a person who has a sibling who's a Liverpool supporter, that probably rubs people up the wrong way because people are like, why do you like them? Surely you hate the team that your brother supports. And look, when they lose, I do have a little bit of a laugh, but when they win, I see my brother happy, and that's the main thing, right? So, but I also do like what what Liverpool stand for as a club. Um, Maybe this has political views and political ties, which is quite ironic because Chelsea and Liverpool probably couldn't be further opposite from the political spectrum if you really want to go down that road. But look, maybe it's a more social thing. Um, and I like what they stand for. I like the working class back against the war nature, and they lean into it heavily, and it rubs people up the wrong way because some people think it's self indulgent and um, kind of woe is me and all this stuff. Um, it can get to that point. It can get to that at points depending on who you ask and depending on who you speak to. But I think on a whole, Liverpool supporters do go about things the right way and are a very passionate and admirable supporter base. I'm not going to sit here and talk about the atmosphere at Anfield. I've never been, and I'm not currently planning on going, so I'm not going to sit here and comment on that. Um, but look, if it was meant for any club to have a happy ending, it was probably meant to be Liverpool, considering the amount of pain that they've suffered over the last kind of 30 years, 20 years even. Whereas pain in comparative, I'm speaking comparative in like comparatively speaking, because obviously Liverpool don't know the next thing from pain when it comes to football events over the last 20 years in comparison to other clubs, but comparatively, you know what I mean. So yeah, it was probably meant to have a happy ending for Liverpool, but unfortunately, it's not meant to be. And look, Klopp's legacy will be questioned. Klopp's legacy will be questioned because of this kind of final month and a bit of the season where he could have and potentially should have given the quadruple a fair shake, and he was beaten in the FA Cup by a United team that had no right to win. He got beaten in the Europa League against a side who, yeah, Atalanta are pretty good, but Liverpool are probably better. And he's dropped points in 3 games in the Premier League against sides who Liverpool are better than and have done them in pretty embarrassing fashion as well. You have to question it and go, okay, while every good manager doesn't deserve a happy ending, good managers probably put themselves in a position to have happy endings. So does this question his legacy, his ability as a manager, and the phrase that I went back to once again, die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Because Klopp won't have to face these consequences, but the Liverpool Football Club do. What happens to Van Dijk? What happens to Salah? What happens to some of these older players? Is the squad going to be rejuvenated? Is the squad going to be refreshed? Will Klopp's legacy on this club be a similar fading legacy to one of Sir Alex Ferguson, where he left them in a position where they couldn't succeed anymore because of the squad was in tatters? Or is there something to build on? Who knows? Who knows? I guess, yeah, I don't know. And I guess, look, losing the league at Goodison Park, it it's not Holly. It's movie, right? And I've said this countless times. Live sports rights, live sports writes Hollywood movies better than Hollywood write Hollywood movies. And regardless of how that result panned out that day, unless it was a 0-0 draw, but that probably was never going to happen. Regardless of how that result panned out that day at Goodison Park, there was always going to be a story. There was always going to be a headline. There was always going to be that thing that had massive ramifications in regards to the relegation race, title race, and legacy. And ironically enough, it was a result that no one really saw coming. It was a result that hadn't happened in about 30 odd years. Maybe that's a long time period. But Everton haven't won a Goodison at home in a derby in a long time. And it was a result that no one really. It, how do I describe this? It was a result that was the most unbelievable because you expect football to be nicer than that, but we always get reminded that football's cruel, and people kind of have this Schadenfreude where they love the cruelness of it and they laugh in Liverpool fans' faces because of the pain and the torture. Maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. But they lost the League at Goodison Park. They win that game, they probably go on to beat West Ham. And we sit here and we're looking at a completely different proposition. But they haven't. So what happens to Liverpool from here? Who coaches them? Can they maintain the success? Can they maintain the game plan? Who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So moving on now to the rest of the title race. I think we just have to kind of catch up on that. So Liverpool are out of it. In my opinion, they're done. No longer speak about them. It's a two-horse race now. City Arsenal, who were here last year. It's going to come back down a little bit tighter this year, I feel. Arsenal beat Chelsea 5-0. Great. They dominated. No shit. That was going to happen. Anyone who's watched a game of any of ours this season, plus the team that we brought out, plus the team that we played. I mean, we really expected to go to the Emirates with a fucking... with a backline of Cucurella, Badiashile, Disasi, and Gilchrist and expect to win. Okay, whatever. I'm not going to get involved in that. But City beat Brighton 4-0. And then obviously City won this morning against Forest, and the North London derby happened. I watched the first half of this North London derby before falling asleep, and I just knew in my heart, genuinely, like I felt it in my soul. I just knew in my heart that there was going to be goals in the first half. I did not expect there to be 3 and all of them going to Arsenal. I thought it'd be like a 1-1 or a 2-0 one way or another, maybe a 2-1. Didn't expect a 3-0 at half time. 2 set pieces, a counter attack, clinical, not pretty, didn't dominate. Spurs definitely had the lion's share of chances in the first half. Possession, shots, dominated. We're passing it around like nobody's business. But Arsenal just clinical. Set pieces, near post. Højbjerg panics in the first one. And then the second one, Kai Havertz is there to just head home. And then on the counter-attack, lovely switch out wide. Saka controls it, takes it out wide, back inside, outside, inside, left foot, bottom corner. Vicario nowhere near it. It's 3-0, game over. Valiant comeback. Romero capitalises on a mistake. Son penalty scores, and then they were pressing there, but Arsenal probably always going to hold on. That Van de Ven no goal. What an unbelievable circumstance of events. Van de Ven looks like he's equalised, gets ruled out for offside, then it goes back up the other end literally a couple of minutes later and Saka scores for the second. It's one of those it's those line ball moments, eh? It's those line ball moments that really can decide a lot when it comes to the kind of title races and when it comes to title races and when it comes to kind of circumstances in a sense, or repercussions. Sorry, when it comes to repercussions. Now we're left where we're left. Arsenal, 80 points. Man City 79. Man City with a game in hand. Wolves, Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham. Wolves, Fulham, Tottenham, West Ham versus Bournemouth, United, Everton. Let me just write those down so I can visualise them together. Bournemouth, United away, and then Everton plays who's City's fixtures again. I'm just writing these down so I can visualise them next to each other so I can give a proper analysis. Wolves, Fulham away, Spurs away, and then West Ham. Well. If you're looking at the 2 away games, United versus Fulham and Spurs, Arsenal probably get the better one out of that. United at home is always going to be tough, but then again, United away is always going to be tough, but then again, United want Arsenal to win that game. Everton probably don't have anything to play for now that they know that Liverpool can't win the league, so they'll probably actually end up trying for that. because I don't think Everton like City because of the points deductions and stuff. Other teams probably don't have anything to play for. Bournemouth probably. I was going to say Bournemouth, but they're Bournemouth, Wolves, Fulham, West Ham, all secured in mid-table. No one versus. I mean, Everton, they're safe. The only team that could possibly go down that isn't in the relegation fight is Forest right now, and neither of them neither of them play them. So I think it would take a catastrophe. It would take a unfortunate set of circumstances for City to not win the title, right? Right? I mean, they've got the game in hand. Even if they draw that, they'll be equal on points, but they've got a -7 goal difference. And to be fair, City can make up a +7 goal difference in one game. They really can. They really can. Maybe Arsenal do it. Maybe Arsenal do it. If City drop points, City lose their game in hand, it's in Arsenal's hands right now. They've won the most amount of games. They've lost the most amount as well for the fight in the top three. They've conceded the least, but have scored the most. So maybe on that merit, they are the best team in the league. They haven't really been. They've had a couple of bad stretches of form, like that 2-0 loss to Villa at home. Wasn't good not long ago. They had that period over New Year's where they lost to West Ham and Fulham and got knocked out of the cup. They lost to Villa as well not long before that. So there's a couple of moments here where you're thinking, okay, maybe this is it for Arsenal, but they've always fought back. City have just been really, really ruthless throughout the season. If I had to put a gun to my head, I'd say City, but also it's a Premier League. Anything can happen, right? Anything can happen. Interesting times. Very, very interesting times. I'll say City, but it'll probably be Arsenal. I said Liverpool. I did say Liverpool. I thought Liverpool were going to win the league, and I'm wrong. Very much. Very, very much wrong. Which is surprising, because I'm normally always right, as those who have watched and listened over the last 3 years definitely know and definitely realise that that's all sarcasm. But regardless, let's move on. Any other Premier League kind of topics to speak about? Forest's, I don't know if I spoke about this last week. Forest's statement in regards to the Everton thing was the most bizarre thing of all time. It was embarrassing, right? It's embarrassing, if we're being honest. That statement was just hilarious. It was how a professional football club can come up with a statement like that, being so childish about a football decision, about a referee's decision, is beyond me. Referees have made bad decisions in the past. It's okay. Like referees have made bad decisions in the past. The call that he was a Luton fan, I think is stupid, because I listen to James Lawrence Alcott, as you could probably tell, the heavy inspiration behind a lot of things behind this kind of podcast and my football content. James Lawrence Alcott spoke on his podcast, and he goes, as a QPR fan, Chelsea supporters look at me and don't take me seriously. So the way that I counteract that is I try and be even more unbiased towards Chelsea, and I try and look at it through an extreme level of neutrality rather than just a normal level of neutrality. And that's how I view it from a Chelsea perspective. When I look at Arsenal and I look at Spurs, two clubs I don't really like. Spurs less so because of Ange, but historically, I've hated Arsenal, I've hated Tottenham. They've given me some of the darkest moments in my life, and some of the best. When we won in Baku, brilliant. When Dele Alli scores a brace and we lose 3-1 at home, tears, not good. You get the point. I now look at them through a kind of absurd level of neutrality, because I want to be as unbiased as possible when speaking about it, because of the fandom is quite obvious through these things in the background, and when I wear my Chelsea tops and whatever, etc. So I think that is a very stupid argument that holds no ground. it was referees make mistakes. VAR people make mistakes. They're not perfect, even though they're trying to be. Something I spoke about last week. You're not going to get perfection in an imperfect game. Embrace imperfections. Don't try and make something perfect when it's not. That's when fans get frustrated. But spoken about this ad nauseum, in circles, in circles, in circles. We all know what I'm talking about. But anyways, let's move on. And let's speak about the A-League. A-League finals. The A-League finals are happening. They are going to kick off over the weekend. It is the elimination final stage. It is the... Is it? Yeah, no, it is. Why is... That's... Yeah, no. Sorry. Yeah, it's the elimination final stage. So for those who don't know, for those watching in Europe, it is the top 6 in Australia, go through a playoff system. Top 2 get a bye. Third place, 6th. Fourth place, 5th. One final, elimination final. The winner versus the higher ranked team, respectively, of the teams in a 2-legged semi-final, and then the winner of those go into a grand final. Basically how the championship playoffs work, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, it is Sydney FC versus Macarthur. I don't think anything could change. Well, Central Coast can win the league if they beat Wellington, or if they beat Adelaide, if they beat Adelaide or get a point against Adelaide, but that doesn't affect the finals. Blah, blah. Sydney versus Macarthur on Saturday, and then Sunday, 5 p.m. on Orthodox Easter Sunday, Melbourne Victory play Melbourne City. Now, if you don't understand why I'm pissed off at that, it's just like a lot of Melbourne Victory supporters will probably celebrate Orthodox Easter just based on the demographic that goes. So don't schedule the game on Orthodox Sunday when a lot of people, including myself, won't be able to probably go because we've got family events to attend to. But look, the league sabotages itself. Shock. Anyways, Sydney versus Macarthur. Macarthur should win that. I don't care that they finish below them. They are the better team, in my opinion, and have been throughout the season. I don't think Sydney are all that. I think Macarthur have probably a little bit more firepower, probably up front. I'd back them a little bit more so. They beat them not long ago, a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 1-0, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think Macarthur should win. It is in Sydney, but I don't think that matters. They did beat them 1-0. They have versed them the time before that, they won, and the time before that, they've only played twice this season. So, I think Macarthur will win. And City versus Victory. Look, on paper, Victory should win comfortably on paper, right? They have the better team. They've been the better team throughout the season. They've got the better players. They've got more amount of game winners. But it's a derby, and it's a derby in a final. And Victory, despite how good that they've been throughout the season, it could all come undone in 90 minutes, and City could just play the game of their life and win. And one of the better Victory teams that I've seen, one of the more talented Victory teams that I've seen, one of the Victory teams that I've seen that has played the best football, could go completely unrewarded. Not even a semi-final. Going out in the elimination final could be really possible because it's a derby in a final series. Who knows what's going to happen? It's only ever happened once before. Victory won 3-0. So who knows what's going to happen in part 2. But if I was a betting man, which I am, I'd go Victory. But I feel like everything that has happened so far this season means nothing. Because it's a derby. Not only is it a derby, it's a derby in a final series. In a one-off game, loser goes home. There is no form doesn't matter. Form doesn't matter. And I'm scared, and I'm nervous, and I'm shitting myself. Because the 6-0 and the 8-0, or the 6-0 and the 7-0 were horrendous. This was the only thing that could potentially top it. In terms of pain. Because we beat them 3-0. I remember, I was there, Marvel Stadium, the year we won the league, in the semi-final. Barbarousse scored, and Thompson scored, if I'm not mistaken. So, I don't know what happens. I hope we win. I really do. And I think Central Coast are probably pound for pound the best team in it. Probably. Who plays the best finals football is a different story. Central Coast probably leave themselves a little bit exposed at times, maybe. Wellington are a team that play really well at home. How's their kind of play really well at home? They're top of the league away, but they're third. They're top of the league at home. They've only lost one game, but they're third in the league away. Victory probably have a exact same record basically at home and away. Who knows? If I had to put my... I think Victory will make the grand final. I think Victory are good enough to make the grand final. Whether or not they win it is a different story. So I'm going to say Victory... The grand final will be Victory versus Wellington. Can that happen? You versus the higher ranked team. Right? I think that can happen. Anyways, let's just assume that Central Coast will lose, or if they win, depending on what means that my result can actually happen. Victory versus Wellington will be the grand final. It'll be played in Wellington. Who knows? They've obviously played 3 times so far this season. 2 have been in Wellington. 1 loss, 95th minute. And the other was a 95th minute equaliser, I think, from Alex Rufer, penalty. And the one at home was a 1-1 draw. And Victory, Wellington didn't have a shot the whole game. So, if it was played at home, I'd back Victory, but it probably won't be played at home. I don't think it is possible for it to be played at home. It will be played in Wellington, so I think that's a different story. But then again, it could very, very easily say Wellington Central Coast final, because they probably are the 2 pound-for-pound best teams in it. I've changed my tune on Victory over the last couple of months. They've been really bad. It's been really annoying. But there you go. That is all, I think, for today's episode. Give a quick preview. I am still a bit under the weather, so I don't really want to speak for too long. Champions League football back this week. Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid. Awesome semi-final. I'll go Bayern 1-0 at home, and then Real Madrid will have it to do at the Bernabeu. Dortmund versus PSG. I would love for it to be a Dortmund Bayern Munich final, so I will go with Dortmund 2-0 at home. PSG stunned. Roma, Leverkusen and Marseille, Atalanta. I'll go Atalanta 1-0 away from home and Leverkusen 1-0 away from home as well. And then the conference, Aston Villa versus Olympiacos. Have to back the Greeks. Have to back Olympiacos. Olympiacos 1-0 at Villa Park. And then Fiorentina and Club Brugge will go Fiorentina 1-0 as well. Low scoring affairs. And then big kind of day for the Premier League. Liverpool versus Tottenham now doesn't really have any consequences, unfortunately. But City do play Wolves, which they should win at home. And then Arsenal play Bournemouth at home, which they should win. But you never know. Could be a potential banana peel. We'll just have to wait and see. Okay. Thank you all very much for watching another episode of the 2 Foot Taker podcast. Thank you all. I implore you all to subscribe to the YouTube channel, all the audio platforms, socials, all the good stuff. All the socials and relevant links are in the description below. Stay well, stay safe. See you guys next week. Love you, leave you. Good. Bye.